Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Patrick Flynn, and welcome to this morning's A Different Perspective. I am so excited you guys are here with me this morning on this beautiful April 16th, right, Brandon? Actually, it's a new experience for me today for a long time. It is just Brandon and I in the studio, which started out many years ago, almost 7 years ago, and which is a great point. I can honestly tell you, I think some of you guys may not know the story, but it's kind of exciting because one young man in his 20s, in his early 20s, came to me, and obviously, you know, it's Brandon, my nephew. These guys know he's more like my son. Took me for a ride and actually said, I want you to watch this video. And I rolled my eyes. I really did. I rolled my eyes. I'm like, oh, what do you want me to do? Because he was always big in the media, being young in his 20s that way. And all of a sudden, he put up a video as I was driving when we went for coffee. And it was a Gary Vee video. And he made sense about media. And I'm like, I kind of like what he says. I think I like because he said the F word like 30 times in like one video. I'm like, that's my kind of guy right there. As you know, because I enjoy swearing. I know it drives some Christian people nuts, but that's okay. Being a Christian person myself, I'm okay with it. But that being said, I love the video, and of course now just media. So with our interns graduating, with a bunch of our things that we had this past weekend, it's just Brandon and I in studio today. I'm like, Brandon, when's the last time this happened? You know, because we have a massive studio, we have technology everywhere and things like that, and so it's kind of fun just having us in studio. It reminds me of kind of the beginning days, and you reminisce the good old days, as Brandon just said. It's kind of fantastic. But that being said, the good old days when I used to be on social media, but some of the platforms, even the platform this morning, we couldn't get working. So the majority of people will be on adp.thewellnessway.com. So if you look at the website here, remember, go to the website. You can see it on top there, the Watch ADP. But this is also our website when it comes to our wonderful clinics all over the world. You can see we have a journey series because we're all on a specific journey in life. And that deals with our health journey, it deals with our mental journey. And the wellnessway.com website gets so many hits. I'm very excited and blessed to have an amazing media team from our amazing media manager, Crystal, who came from a great company from down in a different state and joined us up here. And not only does she have a wonderful team of people that we consistently make our media and our hits bigger, but every month our website gets bigger, bigger, bigger. And regardless if they even censor us more. So that being said, go to wellnessway.com. You can watch ADP show that way. We might be on YouTube right now or some of that from our Wellness Way page. Yeah, the Wellness Way YouTube page. We are live on there. But like I said, we couldn't get some other things going, but that's okay. We will always be able to go back to the website to get that done. Next, actually, it's kind of exciting. I have some traveling coming up here pretty soon. In a couple weeks, I'll be in Royal Ridges, which is Ripon, Wisconsin, which is local. But I have to tell you, we are almost sold out of tickets for a lot of these venues. But you can see I'll be in Altoona, Wisconsin, which is over by Eau Claire. I'll be in Minnesota. I'll be in Scottsdale. Look at that way. May 12th, 13th, 13th, 15th, 17th. I am going to be all over the course of about that 8 days. I'll be speaking about 7 times in the course of roughly 8 days. It's going to be kind of great. May, I'll be in Kingsford up by Dr. Laura and Dr. Thomas and Dr. Karina and Dr. Ryan up in Iron Mountain area, Kingsford, once again. And then June, I'm going to the wonderful one and only Dr. Stephanie Tilden, who did a wonderful job speaking at our big event this past weekend. Going out to Oregon, I've been wanting to get out there for a couple of years. Dr. Stephanie and I have a wonderful clinic in the Beaverton area, which is a suburb of Portland. But because of all the craziness of their mayor and their governor and things like that, I have not been out there for a couple of years, Brandon. And Portland is a beautiful city. Obviously, the pandemic made things a little bit rough for that area. It was one of the most crazy areas in the world. But Dr. Stephanie continued to thrive in her Wellness Way and the wonderful team she has out there. So I'm excited to go out there and speak. And the Sean Garden dancing, oh, that's going to be pretty, I have no idea what the center is, probably a pretty cool place. And then I'm going to end my tour with Dr. Devin down in Pensacola, Florida. Him and I have that wonderful practice down there. And yes, and I will say this, Dr. Devin is my daughter's also boyfriend that way. And he's probably watching right now. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of that young man. And as you guys know, I'm strict when it comes to young men, when it comes to stuff that way. And he has followed everything to a detail. It's kind of, got between me and Brandon, he knows. But he's actually a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful individual. And I will be down there ending my tour with that office down there. It's going to be fantastic. Plus, we'll be in Florida during June. It's going to be quite amazing. And speaking of Florida, the reason why things got changed up a little bit today is because we just got back. Brandon and Lily just got back on Wednesday. We had an amazing interview on Thursday with one of the docs. I'll explain that in a little bit. But we had our amazing event down in Florida. As you can see, this was just a little snippet of just the huge, and there's more screens. There's a huge thing. We have people all over. It was just a beautiful venue. We actually had just an amazing time. And what was it? It was our annual seminar where we bring all the docs and stuff from all over the world in. And there was new docs, there was potential docs, there was all the people training. We had classes going on all through the day. We had speakers going on from me to Nicole to Dr. Stephanie was talking about, to our student programs, to our academy graduation. It was great because started off our Saturday with a wonderful, wonderful video. Oh, something? We should have played that. Oh, yeah. Maybe next week. Maybe next week we'll play our intro video for you guys. We kind of do some spoof video for the beginning of the seminars. And it's kind of neat because you guys saw some of the pictures on my Instagram and some of the things that we posted about me and Braveheart, me in Morpheus costume, and there was much more. Maybe we'll have to play that just because it's about 20 minutes long. It was actually fantastic. But we had just a wonderful time with a ton of people. As you can see, we took an after picture there with a drone and I know it's kind of funny. There were so many people. We could only put so many, and there's trees there and blocking people, and there's things up top, and the sun's coming in, and you should have seen all the people. We had to look into the sun, and that was just crazy in there. But you get the concept of the amount of people that were there. If you look down front, you can look over to the right. There's Ross with his arms wide open. It was great. And then us in the front, and you can see the people. I mean, there was just hundreds of people everywhere. And again, they're jammed in there as much as we can. It was like a big old sardine. You say a can of sardines. We're kind of jamming there, things everywhere. But this is just the wonderful time that we had with everybody there, and it was great because there was all professions. There was chiropractors there. There was doctors there. There was nurse practitioners there. There was nurses there. There was academy people there. There was staff there. There was everybody training at a high level to bring what we bring to you clinically every day. Sometimes. I have to remind people to say, listen, I love that we have the show and the information on our website and all of our pages that get great information out there. But the one thing that's very unique about the Wellness Way itself is we have practicing clinicians all over. That's the best part. We have practicing clinicians stemming from here in Green Bay, like I said, all the way to Portland, all the way to Europe, all the way to Hawaii, down to Florida, everywhere. And so as we get together and as we have these shows and I'm bringing you information, it's more about what's happening locally in your area with one of the clinics or even around here, because what it does, it gives people the options to say, listen, you got great information, but now we can put it and apply it with a clinician to guide you through that process. I'm a big time person that loves analogies. That's why I've created Swiss Watch and different things so people understand things. But I can honestly tell you, one of the things that I think I'm going to run on, and maybe I'll have to do an analogy with this, Brandon, one day, is I teach everybody that a Wellness Way practitioner is nothing more than a tour guide. You see, and being a tour guide is a great thing because what it does, it allows us to actually guide you through a process. But this isn't China. We can't force you on the bus. We can't keep you on the bus. We can't tie it. Now, the medical field tries to do it. That's why you saw all the craziness in the last 2 years. But if you think about it this way, is we are trying to actually just guide you, because everybody needs a guide. We all do. You see, even myself. There's times that I'll give you an example. As you guys know, I love my Peloton. I can honestly tell you, if I didn't have that person screaming at me in the computer, in the screen, yelling at me, I probably wouldn't do as good. I need that guide. I need that person going, come on, hit that hard, get those reps up, get that tension up and things like that. That's kind of fantastic. That's what we need on some of the guides. So that's one thing that our practitioners do so well. They guide you on your journey, as you saw at the beginning part of that website. Okay, all that being said, it's gonna be a little different show today because we actually did a wonderful, absolutely incredible interview, probably one of my favorites, not a joke, from Dr. Jim Meehan. I got to actually have a wonderful time with him at VaxCon, which was an incredible seminar that I was so blessed to be able to speak at. Talked about that a couple weeks ago. But I met a doc who we just met each other. Obviously, I knew who he was, but he didn't know who I was. Remember, in the medical realm, I'm only known so much. I'm more known by the public, and then the medical people find out about me from that way when I speak and everything. And I'm proud of this. We wow them. We wow them, and you'll see the interview that even what Dr. Meehan thinks about what we're doing, me and also my book itself, the I Disagree book. But the cool thing is that we had a very incredible interview. But because once again, our media team just got back and putting everything together, we are going to air that interview next week. But I'm going to cover some things to prelude some of the things that I would tell you right now that when I heard him speak, I can say this, and this is my opinion on this, but he's probably one of the most bold, strong, incredible interviews as an individual, as a doc that I have ever met. And I'm excited to bring this to you and everything. So next week we'll do that, but I'm going to cover some of the topics so we can prelude that to you guys, because you'll be just blown away with some things that he brought during the interview. So can't wait till next week. But that being said, we're going to cover some of the topics that even lead to that, so you have a greater understanding of the interview itself. But I wanted to start with some of the past topics. So we're going to dabble into things, and I'm going to share what I believe is a real pandemic, from a data standpoint, a pandemic that nobody disagrees with. I'm just telling you, if we don't have a different perspective on this, it's going to lead to bad things. And ladies, speaking about my beautiful daughter Faith, and her having a boyfriend now, here's what happens is I'm nervous for a lot of young ladies out there for what I believe is going to be an extremely bad pandemic that's coming, and it's already here. I got stats to prove it. Data's there already, and we're going to get into that shortly. But there's a couple things I always come across when people say, Doc, I watched one of your videos, and can you actually elaborate a little bit more? So I got an email, and here it was. I got an email from somebody, and like I said, as you can see, it says Megan, but I cover up all the other names, so it keeps it private. So when you do send me an email, once again, you can send it to askdrpatrick@thewellnessway.com. So askdrpatrick@thewellnessway.com, and I will respond. And if I don't, Dr. Sam or one of the other docs will respond, but you will get one of our doctors too. It's not, but the majority of the time I will. And here it is. I watched your show on melatonin, and it was fascinating. I had no idea, because they don't tell you things like that. My question is, I started to look it up more, and it said it is good for people who have cancer and are going through cancer treatments. Do you have any insight? Sincerely, Megan. Okay, I do have some insight. I really do, because there is significant things that are not well known when it comes to melatonin. Melatonin, everybody thinks is a sleep hormone. I don't disagree with that, but that's such a minor fraction to what it really does. And if you go back to my past show, when I did cover melatonin, if you think about it this way, melatonin itself is very misunderstood because of the things that are going on even in integrative medicine today. Let me give you an example. If you actually were to ask the average practitioner from a natural standpoint, even medical standpoint, but especially integrative, because it's incorporated a lot in their practices, is they'll say, what do you think is the master antioxidant? Majority of people are going to say glutathione. Well, that's not really true, okay? I believe I can disprove that. Now, once again, I believe that there will be practitioners that disagree with on this, but here's one thing that I'll tell people, is the reason why I look at it and go, it can't be, because if you really want to get the best form of glutathione, you can't really eat it. You can't really take it from a supplement. And people say, no, doc, guess what? I take glutathione and I take a drop and then look at it. No. Turn around, look at the back, okay? It's like this. Turn around, look at the bottle. Look at the ingredients, okay? It doesn't say glutathione. It says reduced form of glutathione. That means in order for you to actually get glutathione, you have to actually convert it into its different form. Let me give you a real life example. People say, well, doc, I'm very strict vegan. I'm like, okay. Do you have any meat source or anything like that? They're like, nope. I only eat vegetables and fruits. And I say, okay, you're going to miss a lot of your fat-soluble vitamins. Oh, no, doc, I get a lot of vitamin A from my carrots and other high vitamin A-based foods. Well, that's not really true. You do not get vitamin A from a carrot. You get beta-carotene, which is a provitamin. What does that mean? That means the provitamin has to be converted into its form of retinol. If you eat a meat source, like an organ meat, you actually get direct vitamin A retinol in its form, which is even more bioavailable. You don't have to worry about conversion, so if you have any problems with your liver whatsoever, which most vegans do because they eat too much sugar, but that being said, it's a whole nother show. But the idea is this. You're not getting the sources, you're depending on conversion. So when people look and go, well, doc, look, it says glutathione, and just let you know, this is actually a sparkling water. It's an organic one. Actually, thank you, Festival Foods. They don't have it. Festival Foods was great during the pandemic. They didn't make us wear masks, but anyways, whole nother. I'm on a rabbit trail, Brandon. I'm going squirrels everywhere. But here's what happens. This is the glutathione. You're looking at the reduced form. So really, by nature, you can't get it in the best form of it, and I agree with it. I have no problem with this. I think IV glutathione is absolutely fantastic. I think that if you do a shot of it, I think it's fantastic. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't use those integrative approaches. I'm actually kind of a fan of it. I have no problem. I've actually done IVs where I put glutathione, in there, or you do a shot of it that way. It's fantastic. I mean, you get a shot in the butt, okay? But the idea is this. But think about this. And there are certain pre-food things, even like avocados that you can eat that can produce glutathione, and it produces that major antioxidants, but it's just hard for me. And this is the way my perspective is. And once again, this is debatable, and I'm cool with all the even aspects of integrative treatments that way. But I'm sitting there going, there's got to be a better way, and there's got to be an antioxidant that you can get massively that doesn't depend on you being hooked up to an IV or getting a shot in the butt. Do you understand? Now, are you taking a pro or a precursor to convert it that way? And that's why I sat back and thought and going, if you look at our body weight itself, if you look at some of the things that are needed antioxidant-wise, 10% of our body weight is actually mitochondria. And mitochondria determines so much when it comes to cancers. And remember, we're the cancers here. The question based on that way. From what they know statistically, now don't quote me on this exactly, but I will tell you just from everything I read statistically, no one has kind of disproven this yet. Doesn't mean it can't be, but the majority, if not all, and they say this, the majority but not all, because they haven't found anything yet, so they don't want to put an absolute, of cancer start in the cells of the mitochondria in the cells. So that means if there's cancer, breast cancer, or intestinal cancer, or brain cancer, there's some problem with the mitochondria, becomes damaged, and of course now the cell changes. And they even talk about the longevity of cells based on the mitochondria. They even have some debates of going, mitochondria are very similar to viruses. They really are, and they actually sometimes some scientists even call mitochondria actually a virus. Not a joke, because there's a lot of obviously RNA and DNA involved in it. Helps run the cell. Actually, no joke, some of the viruses try to get in there for replication. But that being said, it's a very important part of the cell. Now, nucleus is an important part, but if you look at the ATP production, everything. So cancers a lot of times start there. And guess what? Guess what is the major concentration and the major antioxidants need to keep mitochondria great? It's not glutathione. Actually, it's not at all. It's actually melatonin. It really is. It's melatonin. So therefore, when you look at the cancer basis of its replication, and they say, well, doc, melatonin actually has a fantastic effect on mitochondrial repair, stopping it from it, but also repairing it if there is cancer. So I pulled up something that I figured that we could all look at Mayo Clinic when talked about brain tumor stem cell research and talking about somewhat melatonin. Targeting the powerhouse of the cell. Brandon, I want you to keep that up there because I'm going to read this for everybody that way. Because it's a fascinating research article, and so I want people to see it. Researchers at Mayo Clinic Brain Tumor Stem Cell Research Lab are investigating the oncogenic effects of melatonin in glioblastoma. So obviously it's a major condition. Glioblastomas are very common today. And here, as it goes on, Cornell Lab in Granada is using melatonin to enhance the treatments of brain cancer. So they're using a certain chemical treatment for brain cancer. Ultimately, the result of these studies will increase therapeutic effects and provide a better quality of life for patients. Researchers have demonstrated that melatonin is more than just a natural sleep hormone. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Previous studies have shown that melatonin exerts a synergistic effect with chemotherapy or radiation treatment on cancers such as breast cancer, melatonin, neck and head and neck cancer. Melatonin targets the powerhouse, the mitochondria of the cancer cell, shifting metabolic states and sensitizing cells to be less resistant to treatment. Outside of its effects in tumor cells, melatonin plays a key role in the protection of resident non-cancer cells, thus counteracting the side effects associated with chemotherapy. Additionally, melatonin is an attractive candidate for therapeutic investigation as it naturally presents in the body, thus avoiding the dangers of introducing foreign molecules to the patient. Guys, that's Mayo Clinic research right there. I want you to think about that. It's Mayo Clinic research right there going, hey, listen, not only does it enhance the effect of chemotherapy on the cancer cells itself, it protects non-cancerous cells. Think about this. And thus, it even talks about this could work and possibly even avoid the danger of introducing foreign molecules to a patient. That's direct on Mayo Clinic's website right there. And that's why I left it up so long. You should research that. Now, am I saying that you're going to replace melatonin with cancer treatments? I'm not saying that. Because of course I always love Brandon and I always love how I trend on Twitter, I trend on Facebook, I trend on something because something I said, and Mike going, because they'll take it out of context. What I'm trying to show you guys is this. See, I'm sitting there going, what's a really easy way to get the highest antioxidant, and does it have to be based on an IV or a shot or a reduced form in a supplement form? And it was very difficult for me to go, there's gotta be something better. And you say, well, doc, melatonin, you can take it as a pill. Actually, that's not the best form, okay? It's not the best form at all. The best form of melatonin actually doesn't come from a pill. Yes, can you take a pill? I do, I honestly do. My family does. There's different things that we supplement with and things that I believe that we sometimes don't get enough. But I can tell you right now, I actually took a bunch over last week because obviously as you are going 100 miles an hour and you sleep less, you need a little bit more melatonin because you're right. Melatonin by nature is known as a hormone that is based on darkness, but that's misleading. That's when I deal with the pineal gland, go back to the old show. But the major aspect of melatonin doesn't come from darkness, it actually comes from light, near infrared. That's why I love my infrared sun. You guys have seen me post pictures about that being in my infrared. Also, sunlight itself. So melatonin is kind of interesting because if you're in the sun, you actually reduce your pineal production. But if you're in your sun, you get your mitochondrial production. And of course, that's why when people sit in the sun for long periods of time, they get sleepy. I taught that on the show, and people are like, well, now I know why when I go on vacation, all of a sudden I'm in the sun all day, I'm excited, you think the sun is gonna be energetic, and you get tired. That's because you get massive amount of melatonin production from 10% of your body weight, which is your mitochondria. That's cool, okay? But its effects on cancer, its effects to actually not only protect non-cancer cell, even if there is chemotherapy introduced, should be something that should be investigated. Now, so what I would like to see, and this is a personal opinion, is I would love to see maybe if you ended up having to need chemotherapy or radiation, that your oncologist will say, listen, we need to give you a certain amount of milligrams of melatonin. Why we're doing that? To protect the non-cancer cells, but have a very good effect at creating some apoptosis, cell death in the damaged mitochondrial cells, so they die faster and they're better and they're more effective. Just a thought. You understand? Just a what? Just a different perspective, okay? So yes, do I think it's something that should be highly investigated? I do. I think that I can honestly tell you, and I proved this during my talk when I was in Florida speaking to the crowd, that melatonin not only is fantastic when there should be some synergistic kind of cancer treatments that way, but in fertility, I can honestly tell you, this is my personal opinion, but clinically, I can't remember a person that I dealt with for fertility, and there was thousands of them, is the fact that melatonin wasn't used. But if you go into the investigation of it. Now that's why if you go into the investigation of SARS-CoV-2, you look at some of the treatment forms from some of the major doctors that have moved away from the conventional approach, and melatonin's always on there because there's an immune effect. Once again, that has to deal with more the antioxidant. So I will fight beyond a shadow of a doubt that glutathione is not the number one antioxidant. I will always believe it's melatonin. So that being said, that's just a cap from one of the questions that we had there. But I believe that there is a strictly true pandemic for young men of today. Because once again, we are seeing this all over the place. And it's interesting because if this is not dealt with, young ladies, you are going to suffer in the future. Because you know why? Because once again, not only I'm nice seeing a better culture shift, I'm now seeing men trying to be men now and not women, which is very important to me. But second of all, what happens is this. I'm also concerned about the health effects, not just a cultural aspect of where, you know, they're trying to demasculate men, but you don't have to demasculate men when internally young men are becoming sicker and sicker than ever. And people say, well, doc, are they dealing with some major condition? What's that disease they're dealing with? Actually, it's not even a disease. It really is not. I believe that the pandemic, that the true pandemic that young men are going through is this right here. It's kind of crazy. The overall testosterone levels show steady decrease among young men in the US. Let's go into this, okay? If you look at this here, from 1999 to 2016, guess what happened? Testosterone levels have declined in adolescents and young men, according to results presented on the 2020 American Urology Associated Virtual Experience. Overall, male testosterone decline can be attributed to multiple etiologies. The United States has an aging population with older men exhibiting lower testosterone levels. Further, overall populations have increased its comorbidities, increased diabetes, which may have causes the testosterone decrease nationally. A spokesperson, incoming urology resident of the Yale School of Medicine. However, the most of these explanations for testosterone deficiency may be attributed to age. Okay, come back to me on this one. Guess what? You can blame anything on age. You really can. So I'm going to spin this a little bit because once again, I am 47. My testosterone levels are over 800. Just so you guys know, I've gotten older even since the show began. Okay, and I don't think my testosterone levels have gone down. They probably went up because I'm all jacked up right now. Okay, and that will actually cause them to go up. But here's my point on this. I want you to think about this. It's very easy to say, well, it's related to age. Okay, so then am I the exception to the rule? Is Travis, who we had on the show, the exception to the rule? Is Ross, who's actually the same age I am, who has actually over 700, this? And we can go on and on. I can give you thousands of individuals. I can give you guys in their 80s that have testosterone over 500. So and yes, here's what happens. I mean it sincerely. We're all going to die. We're all going to die. And honestly, yes, heart disease, cancers are the number one killers in general population. But I truly, honestly believe, and once again, this is my opinion, I believe that even a healthy person will eventually probably die from a virus. Why? Because you're going to run out of gas one day, and your body's going to it's going to kapoots a little bit, even if you stay healthy and vibrant all the way. My goal is I want to live to over 100, and guess what happens? But I want to live vibrantly. I want to be able to go like I am now, 100 miles an hour. But eventually, my body's going to wear out. It's a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. I always tell people, if you want to look at how aging happens, is take a copy machine. Okay, we have a bunch of them. We have these big ones that look like spaceships here. Okay, and if you put a beautiful paper on there and copy it, it copies it. It looks awesome. It's still not the same. It's just a little different. Take that copy, put it on there, copy. Okay, guess what? Copy. And we only get so many copies. You understand? And that's what aging really is. Aging is the fact that, now once again, we want to make sure that copy of the copy of the copy, it has its best forms. And sometimes, the nice thing about our body, we can make a really crappy copy. And if we actually go back and add more ink to the printer, guess what happens? Ooh, better copy. Okay? And so that's what I want people to understand, that eventually our copies run out. No one's getting out of this thing alive. Okay? That's why I always tell people, enjoy the journey. You may have a shitty day today, but guess what happens? You're going to wake up tomorrow. Most of you will. So guess what happens? You better actually learn to enjoy the journey, because eventually your copies do run out. And that being said, they blame things on aging just because it's an easy out, because then you have no responsibility. See, if you ever want to look at things that they blame on in the medical field, they blame things that, once again, you don't have to take responsibility for. But it's interesting. I love how they do talk about this with diabetes. They talk about weight and things like that. I'm actually happy that they did this, okay? Testosterone deficiencies have a prevalence of 10 to 40% among adult males and 20% among males between the age of 15 to 39. Think about it this way. Testosterone levels are getting lower as our general population is getting older. And I don't mean age-wise. I'm saying 25 years ago, testosterone levels as a general whole across the world were not this low. Okay, and that's what I'm trying to point out. The fact that our thinking and our perspective is leading us to a very unhealthy population. So let's just think about this in general. Who guides, there we go back to the tour guide, who guides all these young men? Who guides all these older men? Who guides your family? Who guides your people on the advice to take care of your testosterone levels? You already know the answer. It's so dominant by the medical field. That's why I had a really nasty email come across about, I think it was about 3 weeks ago. They're like, Doc, you actually really tear on the medical field. Well, why can't I? Just from this study alone. Do you think these doctors, the pediatrician, actually if they go in for a physical, here it's kind of interesting. When was the last time your teenage boy went in for a physical, they just didn't grab him by the ball sack and say, okay, you don't have a hernia, now go play sports? You understand? Did they go look at, did they do blood work? Did they do your testosterone levels? No, they didn't. They do the most basic things to make sure their body's not going to explode and die, and sometimes that does happen anyways. But the idea is this, is you need to get a little bit more detailed on this, because you'd be surprised, even a young teenage man can have low testosterone. And because he doesn't have a form of impotence yet, or sexual dysfunction, they have no relationship to it. But as I talked about in the male birth control 2 weeks, or last week was it? Yeah, last week, guess what happens? You start manipulating testosterone levels, you start manipulating things that affect testosterone, you have heart and other conditions that you may not see for 10, 15 years. And all of a sudden you're seeing a younger population. That's why you're going to see with testosterone levels going down, you're going to see more heart problems come. You're going to see more vision problem come. And because they don't have sexual dysfunction yet, they don't correlate it. But I'm thinking this way, man, if I was a dad of a young man and all of a sudden they had a physical, The physical will be, hey, let's get a male panel on him to see where his testosterone levels are. Because you'd be surprised how many young males today have that problem. And that, to me, is one of the biggest true pandemics that we see here, okay? So we look at this. It's quite interesting as we continue with the article here. As we continue with the article, according, the potential causes of these declines could be increased obesity, BMI, assay variations, diet, phytoestrogens, decline exercise, physical activity, fat percentage, marijuana use, and environmental toxins. Man, Brandon, you know what that sounds like? It sounds like what the Wellness Way does every single day to find out the 3 stressors for somebody's body. It's interesting because I'm actually happy they talked about this. I mean, think of it this way. Fat percentage, physical activity, phytoestrogens. Does anybody know one of the biggest places that kids get phytoestrogens from when they're a baby? Formula. Soy formula. Soy is not good for you guys. It's not. There's so many different alternatives now today. Avoid it. They're giving young boys phytoestrogens. Now, people say, Doc, with all these things going on, including the obesity epidemic, because kids are more obese ever in history, giving kids phytoestrogens, could that affect their testosterone at a young age and even change their aspects of how they think? Absolutely. Man, testosterone gives a man such great mental factors of being such a gur. You know what I'm saying? I always say it gives a man a gur. And ladies, I'm sorry. I'm going to talk about this. Remember, this is a non-PC show, okay? You guys are attracted to strong men. You are. Yes, I know it's so cute when Brandon holds, his baby girl. I did the same thing. Yes, I'm a dad. I love my daughters. I will hold them. I will love them. And that is a form of attractiveness. There is no doubt. But, ladies, you want a strong man. You don't want a wussy man. You want a man that can stand up, a man that can protect you, a man that can battle for you, a man that's strong and will go after things. Because the biggest complaints that I hear in my seminar isn't because a dad won't hold his daughter and actually love them. It's because they've lost their gur. They lost that attractiveness that way. And I'm sorry, because you know what happens this? Testosterone has so much to do with that. And we need to really look at those factors. And now what happens is this. So we're destroying young men's testosterone levels with the things that we're doing as far as sugars and obesity and phytoestrogens and environmental toxins, which we covered. Once again, can also be even on the vaccine realm or any outside heavy metal or anything that's really toxic that way, from a glycophosphate to all those factors that do it. But also, once again, lack of physical activity. Ladies, get your young boys off of video games. Get them outside. You know what I'm saying? I have no problem if someone plays a video game. I don't play them. Does anybody know why I don't play them? Does anybody know why I don't play video games? You're gonna laugh at this, because I'm obsessive compulsive. I really am, because I play them all the time. See, that's the nice thing about knowing yourself. So I will not play a video game. My daughters have a Nintendo, and what they'll do is they'll play for a little bit, and they'll say, Dad, you want to play? Nope. No, I know myself too well, because I could probably sit down there and play for 10 hours. So when I say that young men are addicted to video games, I'd be that person. So I'd be like, just no, okay? And if they do play for a little bit, fine, but get their butts outside, get them moving. It's like, it's one of the reasons why I actually have a golf simulator in my house. So I'm consistently playing down there, physically moving, doing the things, plus it's actually something that's more physical activity, plus it's a sport that I absolutely love and adore. So does my family, so it's easy for us to go down there. Okay. We've seen that lower values of testosterone have been associated with increased comorbidities. So we talked about that. And increased risk of all-cause mortality. Okay, you gotta remember, testosterone starts dropping, guys, it's going to be a bad day, okay? It's going to be something that not only is going to affect us heart-wise, which is the number one reason why most males die today, are heart disease, because testosterone is very anabolic and very protective to us, okay? This decline, specifically in these young men with increased obesity, may lead to an increase of pernicious cancers. Okay, that's a bad day. This is especially worrisome in young adult men age groups, as many men feel stigma that as less likely to seek care for these low libido and erectile dysfunctions. There's a good point right there. That's one thing that I want to point out. Do you know that not even behind closed doors, you would laugh at this. I will go speak in Ripon coming up here in a couple weeks. And like I said, no joke, we are almost sold out of every ticket. So get your ticket now, because probably within next week, it'll be totally sold out. And there'll be no availability to pop in, because the huge venue only allows so many people. With that being said, I will literally speak, and women will come up right after, and there'll be a line of people to ask me questions that way, and women will tell you the most intimate details of their life, everything from what's going on with them, what's happening to them sexually, what's happening to them as far as their uterus, what's happening to them as far as their breasts, right in the middle of everybody. Yes, they're not announcing it like on the microphone, but they're talking to you right away. That doesn't happen to males. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't happen with males. Because of the male ego and our pride and things like that, it's very difficult for especially a young man to tell somebody that they even notice some problems, okay? There's been times where I have sat in a room with a teenage boy and said, listen, teenage young man, and he was 16 years old, and he had his mom step out because he didn't even want to tell mom that he was having certain problems and stuff, because it's very difficult for men to talk about this. And because they don't want to talk about it, then they don't search anything out, and the problem only gets worse. So that's why it's important for us to, once again, be very proactive if we were doctors, to say, listen, I don't care if you're a star athlete, and I can show you my shadow of doubt. I can show you star athletes that look physically fit, and they have testosterone levels of 200. I can show you professional football players that have that, because once again, with all the damage that they do sometimes, it's a little bit excessive, and they can cause a drain in their testosterone. There's other factors that do that, but that happens very common in athletes. See, a lot of times we actually sometimes equate just physical fitness with their testosterone levels. Not a joke, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I can show you guys that are just chiseled, that have testosterone levels below 200. See, that's the point of going, stop all this guessing. Stop looking at that guy and he's got some big muscles. And you're like, oh, the testosterone levels are great. Okay? Yeah, yes, you're gonna be a little more correlated if you are have physical activity, but there will be a little bit more, but you gotta be careful with that. There's too much correlation, like, okay, they're fit, therefore they're healthy. Okay, they look like they have muscles, so testosterone levels are great. They don't have any obesity, so testosterone levels are normal. That's not true. There's so many factors, but you know how you rule all that? Run a lab. See, it's that simple. Make it very easy in the steps and guide. There we come back to this. We are a tour guide. Guide these people. Hey, Miss Jones, your son's 15 years old. He's already hit puberty. Guess what happens? Instead of waiting for something to go wrong, let's just do it in general. Let's actually just run a hormone panel on him. Parents are like, that makes sense. And you'd be surprised. I can honestly tell you, and I will, don't hold me to the stat, but I can tell you, probably 25% of the young men that I tested actually had low levels and they had no clue. Parents had no clue. Even the young man didn't have no clue. And I'll look at their blood work and go, oh my goodness, testosterone levels are 300. That should be 700 at your age, okay? Vice versa, I can show you guys that are my age that go, oh my goodness, they're 47. They're over 800. How is that possible? Guess what? I'm much older than that teenage boy. At 47, I'm, let's say 17 years, I'm 30 years older. So is it age related? Nope. It's who took care of you. That's the big part. Who has guided you? So we're gonna use that, Brandon, you know I'm gonna have to do a lot on that whole guide thing, because once again, the guidance is actually key. Because here's what happened. Let me show you something. This breaks my heart. As you can see right here, simple lab, okay? And when I say a male hormone panel, all we did was write down the anabolic hormones and said, here's something that we should see tested. As you can see, even at the bottom, they also did their immune panel to see. But if you look at top right, this is a 22-year-old male. Look at his testosterone levels, 220. That's crazy. Okay, now from a standpoint of a clinician, symptomatology-wise, this young man has some things going on. That's why he entered the office. But here's what happens this, is I more think long-term. Is this low testosterone going to kill him right now? Absolutely not. Is it going to affect his life both physically and mentally? Sure it is. If this person was 50 years old, it'd be more severe. So yes, as age goes on and your testosterone levels are low, it's a bad day. But here was the big thing. Having levels that low, guess what happens? How my brain thinks, I'm always thinking 5, 10 years down the road of going, now once again, his heart is not protected as well. Testosterone is a very anabolic thing about buildup and repair. Heart takes a significant amount of damage. That's why if you look, low testosterone and cardiovascular disease are very correlated, because that heart is working constantly. It's an organ that never stops. Your heart stops, it's a bad day. So that needs a significant amount of repair. It needs a significant amount of hormone to continually build up that tissue, because it's a big muscle. And yes, I'm overgeneralizing it that way, but understand it's really well needed. So and guess what happens? This young man doesn't have any heart problems. I'm pointing to the screen because I see the same thing you guys do. But yes, he doesn't have any heart problems. But, let's say it again, you leave this 5, 10, 15 years. Yes, he will have other low testosterone symptoms, but all of a sudden, guess what happens? He's more susceptible to damage in his heart, and he can build up a cardiovascular problem that if nobody checked his hormones in the first place, they wouldn't even know this was there. They had no clue that this would be a problem. None. But because of the different perspective that our clinicians are trained on, just like we trained on hard last week, guess what happens? It's about being a carpenter type doctor. Go back to the other analogies I love. Well, as a carpenter, we look at that 22-year-old and go, he might be missing something. We may need to check all the rooms of the house, not saying that they're on fire, not that there's a disease process, because there wasn't, but the idea is this, we need to build it up. Now, here's something significant. Now, if you see, this is only one page. This is 5 pages of report as we actually do extensive testing. And they also ran his immune panel, but I want to show you something, okay? And this is why the Hormone Connection Seminar came about. This is why, once again, I've had so much documentation. People don't realize, I think I started a Hormone Connection Seminar, maybe 5 years ago? I think it was 5 years ago. And just like when it came to media, as we were talking about at the beginning, Brandon helped start that. I didn't name the Hormone Connection Seminar. I didn't name it at all. Actually, when someone had me speak on hormones, it wasn't a big focus. I know it's funny, you look at my schedule, I get to speak all over the world, I get all these things, I get packed crowds, stuff like that. When I'm doing this Hormone Connection Seminar, it wasn't like I set out to do it. It just, there was an opportunity. People say, Doc, I need a purpose in life. Oh, well, look at the opportunities that open up. People are always trying to like God's going to give me some major purpose. And I just, no, just walk through an opportunity that came on. All of a sudden, the person says, can you speak on hormones? I'm like, no. And that's actually how that actually happened. Oh, it's really funny. I say no to so many things. I really do. You'd be surprised. And all of a sudden, I'm like, nope. And then this person pushed, and this person pushed. So I actually said, okay, I'll speak on hormones. And the title was this, Male and Female Hormones. That's what it was. No joke. It wasn't this big elaborate thing. And so what I did is I put together a bunch of slides. Literally, I think I put together slides that day because this is so second nature to us because I'm not a speaker. See, that's the point. Our doctors speak all over. Our doctors speak locally. Our doctors speak at different things. But what happens this? It's easy for us. It actually takes more time to put the slides together than it does to speak on something. If I didn't have slides, guys, I'd get up here and talk for hours just even the clinical experience. But I was like, I put slides together, put some labs together, spoke on it. I couldn't believe how many people showed up. It was here in Green Bay. And I was like, whoa, oh my goodness. And next thing you know, there's people say, can you speak here and speak here? But here's the one thing that happened. I was down in Platteville, and I spoke down there. I was there with our wonderful Dr. Stephanie Cohen. And all of a sudden, I get an email from Stephanie forwarded from one of her patients. And she's like, oh my goodness, Dr. Patrick's seminar put so many connections together for me. And I'm like, and then Dr. Stephanie said, the Hormone Connection would actually be a pretty cool name. So guys, just so you know, for me speaking to Ripon, a couple weeks and me speaking all over, the Hormone Connection name didn't even come from me. Actually came from Dr. Stephanie Cohen, which came from one of her patients, which actually gave that way. So it's kind of funny how things have evolved through there. And wrapping that all around, when I looked at this, when I saw this level of 220, what my brain does, what the Wellness Way practitioners' brains do, is they go, well, does he have a problem producing testosterone? And so you take in all the other factors, and that's why the panel's so large. And he said, nope, he doesn't have a problem. But wait, Doc, wait. But he's at 220. It's low. And so, apologize, guys. I actually got the lab right there. That's why I'm pointing it there. So it's like, it's low. It's actually, yeah, it is low. But let's go to the next page. Oops, I gotta do it myself, Brandon. There we go. Let's go to the next page. Here it is. Let's scroll all the way down to the bottom page. Well, let's actually stay up there for a second. If you look at a CRP, C-reactive protein, it's actually an inflammatory marker, and anything above 1 shows that they're inflammatory. Anything above 1 starts a cardiovascular risk. That's what if you see. So I know it says between thing is high risk. No, anything above 1 shows that there is chronic inflammation in his body. So is this young man inflamed? Absolutely. Is it contributing to his testosterone levels? Absolutely. But I really want to show you if you scroll down to the bottom. And you see that in a red marker down below. And what do you see? You see his estradiol going elevated. Look at that right there. I'll leave that up for about 5 seconds. They're going to come back to me. But I want you to look at that marker down below. So I want you to picture 220, and now I want you to picture the estradiol right there. So everybody, if you've watched any of my shows before, you'll understand that one of the major factors that happens with people is when they are actually have the levels like that, his testosterone is converting into estrogens. Okay, think about that. So what's happening? He's actually becoming more dominant in a cyclic female hormone than he is in his own testosterone levels. That's a bad day. That's a bad day. That's a bad day for him physically. That's a bad day for him mentally. And it's going to lead to major illness, maybe not for 15, 20 years down the road. So is it aging, or is it that his doctors that he was currently under never thought from a different perspective of what to do with him. So therefore, guess what? He will continue in that cycle. And then when he does hit 40, 35, 50 years old and has some chronic illness, they say, look, it's all to do with aging. No, it's not to do with aging. It's who guided him as he got older. That's it. See, I may be censored on Facebook and YouTube and all the channels and stuff like that, thank God, not Instagram. But the idea is this, from what? From giving you a different path and journey to walk on? Think about that. That's all I've done. Doesn't matter if it's SARS-CoV-2, doesn't matter if it's testosterone, doesn't matter if it's estrogens, doesn't matter if it's breast cancer, doesn't matter what it is that way. I'm saying, listen, I'm not trying to control you. I said, here's the bus. Want to jump on, take you for a little tour, see if it makes sense. The great thing is, the tour has been going on for 23 years now. And it's really had a big impact. And that's why I was very excited to see all those people up on the stairs and in that rooms that way on a regular basis. And believe it or not, that was not all the people that could have been there. There's events that were going on, people could not be there. But what's happening is this. You're seeing the effect of going, listen, we got to give these guys a little bit of different guidance because look what's happening even in the research itself. Low testosterone in adolescents and young adults. This is well known. It's in all the medical journals. They're talking about it as a systemic thing happening. This was published in January 2020. If we look, here we go. Male hypogonadism. That just they like, okay, listen, not enough testosterone. The clinical syndrome with variable symptoms associated with gonadal dysfunction can affect men of all ages. In older men, physiological changes of the aging testis account for the majority of decreased testosterone levels in the population. Hold the phone. Let's come back here, Brandon. Aging. Okay, so then explain to me why that when you actually look at the aspects of the aging process, then you go back to the other research, and they give you multifactorial things. Why is it always blamed on aging? Because here's what happens this. That young man that you see that's 22 years old, I have 4 times the amount of testosterone he does. I'm 25 years older than him. Do you know what I'm saying? And I can give you bucos amounts of people that are in the same place that way. So it has nothing to do with aging. Now, once again, yes, we're all going to die. We're all going to age. I said, once again, that's why I don't even agree with the term. And I know it's a marketing ploy when integrative doctors talk about anti-aging. Guys, guess what? I'm older than we started the show. We're all older. See, it's gracefully aging. It's aging making the best form of copy. Remember that copy machine? A copy, a copy, a copy. You want the best printer in order to produce and have them on ink so you can make the best replica of it that way. But it's still a copy, it's not the original. Now, let's go back to this. For younger males and adolescents, the etiology of hypogonadism is commonly due to a congenital or acquired condition that disrupts the testis production of testosterone or signaling from the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal gonadal axis. Diagnosis of hypogonadism is younger males can be a challenge, as symptoms such as decreased libido, erectile function, common in older men are not usually present, and young men instead commonly complain of low energy. Come back to me. I want you to think about this. Do you understand that the majority of people, if not a lot of you guys that even watch the show, judge your health by how you feel? They judge it by how you feel. And this is not a joke. That young man that has 220 does not even have erectile dysfunction yet. Give him 10, 15 years, maybe give him 5 years and that can happen that way. See, never judge your body based on symptomatology. Because you can see, even in all the research, they talk about this way. The reason why it's missed a lot is because they don't suffer from what they classify as testosterone deficiency. Remember, when you look at from the carpenter standpoint, you do not care what happens to the room of the house. You just know that if you don't have the proper lumber, you can't have a built-up room. You can't. You need to consistently go check room by room, and that's why labs are so important. But labs that actually look for things that are normal. See, we're not looking for, okay, listen, somebody has testosterone deficiency, and therefore what we're doing is based on their symptoms. No, we're gonna run a lab regardless. So, doc, how old should a young man get his testosterone checked? Well, I would like to see it even before he hits puberty, but at least when he hits puberty, see where his levels are at. See if he's eating too much sugar. Because you saw that young man convert from his testosterone to estradiol. Sugar, diabetes, weight. Do you see what I'm saying? Well, see, and ladies, you should be very conscious of this. If you actually start to see that in your young men, as a dad or as a mom, and your kid's getting a little pudgy and fat when he's 16, 17 years old, sorry, parents. You control what he eats. You control what he does. And I always love this. I can't control what he does. Really? Don't give him any money. Well, Doc, he's got to get supper before he eats, before he goes to his football game. Okay, cool. Send him with some good stuff. Oh no, him and his friends ran to McDonald's. Don't give him any money. See, I love how parents think they can't control anything. I'm like going, no, you just don't want to have the tough conversations with these kids in order to do it. I have to have tough conversations. Here, I end up having tough conversations with your kids on this. Stop eating all this stuff. It's going to lead to problems. And yes, as young people, we feel immortal. We really do. You talk to a 17-year-old about not eating sugar, guess what happens? The only way I appeal to them, I can honestly tell you, I do this to males when their wives are sick and things like that. I will legitimately look at a child, okay? And I can tell you I've done this to an 8-year-old. I'll look at them and say, do you like Christmas? And they're like, yep, we love Christmas. Do you like those presents that your mom and dad buy you? Yes, absolutely, love them. And I'm talking an 8-year-old. And it's like, what did you get Christmas that was so awesome? And they tell me, and they light up like a Christmas tree themselves. And I'll say, what's really funny? Do you know that, now once again, if they believe in Santa, I'll tell them something different. But anyways, I'll say, listen, do you know, where did those presents come from? And I go, well, mom and dad got them. And I say, yes, mom and dad will get you less presents next year because if you don't follow through what I tell you, they got to pay me more money and I'm not cheap. And I'm going to take that money happily because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And therefore you have less Christmas presents, but I'll buy my kids more Christmas presents because they have to pay me your money and you don't get it. So I get it. So I get it to my kids. And the kids look at me and go, I'm like, yep. You think I didn't say that to kids? You think I didn't say that to teenagers? Man, try to understand, say, listen, I'll take your money. Your parents are paying good money to be here because of your bad habits. So you can choose to actually follow what I recommend for you. If you don't, guess what happens? I got to give you more stuff to take. I give you more stuff. You want to have that energy drink? You want to have stuff? Cool. I'm going to give you some things for your liver to help all that problem. And here, guess what? There's another $600 for you. Good. I'll take it. Not a joke. Sorry. Got to guide these people. I can't tell them. I can't be like the government and say, if you don't take this, you're going to lose your job. See, forcing, no. Guiding, yes. But on a tour guide, on a tour bus, you can get off anytime you want. I can honestly tell you, if you haven't been to New York City, go. Because at least it hasn't kind of coming back a little bit now. But the idea is this. I remember the Red Apple tours. And if you haven't been to a Red Apple tour in New York City, I love tours. I love history. I love tours. And so you jump on the bus, and guess what happens? You can hear a bunch of stuff, and then if you want to get off, you can get off anytime you want. You know what I'm saying? They have stops on the way. See, that's what a doctoring and that's what healthcare is really supposed to be like. It's say, listen, I'm going to give you a guided tour. Here's what the end of the tour is going to get you, but there's steps on the way. And so therefore, guess what? I, as a practitioner, especially bringing such a different perspective, I had to say, hey, how am I going to communicate with these people? Say, listen, here's the ride we're going on. It's up to you if you want to jump on board. If you don't, and if you get on, get off, here's what happens. The tour is more expensive because you got to buy another ticket. So that being said, as we continue, talking about dysfunction, here we go. Well, an underlying congenital cause should always be considered in young men with hypogonadism. Acquired conditions such as obesity, diabetes, anabolic steroids, illicit drugs use are all associated with low testosterone levels. Outside of modifying identifiable risk factors for hypogonadism, pharmaceutical testosterone therapy can also lead to therapeutic dilemmas in young men who desire paternity. Topical or injectable administration of testosterone through negative feedback of the hypothalamus pituitary can decrease spermatogenesis, posing an infertility risk. Let's stop right there. See, this is the first place I always go, synthetic replacement, but I'm so happy in all the research they're now telling people, and you see it when you get to some of the estrogen levels, that guess what? You manipulate hormones from a synthetic standpoint, you can even see this. See, you think, well, doc, if they gave them from a cream or injectable, that should help their testosterone come up and they should be more fertile. That's not really true. It's not your own normal testosterone. And you know how difficult it is as a practitioner just trying to give people a good tour, and I look at a man and say, listen, you need to avoid all sugars because you need to actually get your sperm count out and do these things. You need to eat an organ meat because you are going to lack vitamin A and other constituents you need. You need to take zinc because it's involved in the enzymatic process for you to produce all of your testosterone. And guys go, nope. You'd be surprised. See, people think that just because they came in to tell us or they got a lab like that, that they followed through. I can honestly tell you, and this is going to surprise you guys, is probably half the people that you give recommendations to don't follow it one bit. Not one bit. And I understand. I'm actually sympathetic. See, as a tour guide, I'm like, I'm gonna give you a hell of a tour, but I can't force you to do something, nor will I ever, because I'm a freedom person and I'm a freedom of choice person. But what does make me very sad is, especially because my whole world was based on fertility, I'd watch a woman who actually did everything to get her body back to normal, and she thought she was the problem. And all of a sudden, guess what happens? The males didn't want to go through some of the most basic things that the females went through hell to get themselves back normal, and guys didn't. That was frustrating, because then they're like, nope, I'm just gonna take an injectable. I'm gonna do these things. And it was sad because the end result was they didn't end up having a baby. Now, I will say this, over time, they all listened. They really did. Because you know why? Because as they go a different path or a different tour, we've been on that medical tour for a long time, for 100 years intensely. And once again, what's happening to all these now young men? Do you understand that type 2 diabetes used to be called adult onset? Do you know that? And that was when I was in school. That was in the early 2000s. They had to change that because of what's happening in our culture and who's guiding all the patients. On the flip side, think of it this way, testosterone levels are at an all-time low. Young ladies, women, that should scare you. Because once again, I don't care who you are, I don't care what your political affiliations is, I don't care if you're a feminist or not a feminist, guess what happens? A strong, vibrant man that has some girth to them is still the most sexually appealing guy on the planet. It's not because he's sitting there holding the baby. Yes, everybody wants a father type figure that way. But the idea is this, what really attracts you women to men is not a weak man. It's a strong man that has some girth and some gumption to him, all right? Sorry, I can hear all this stuff all across the world when women go, I just want my guy to be a guy. Yeah, you do, okay? And the sad part is a lot of them are sick and they don't have that. So let's go back to this, Brandon. Other agents that can replace testosterone or increase intranasal testosterone, selective estrogen modulators, aromatase inhibitors, HCG, and other, just consistent medical things being thrown out. Clinicians must maintain a high level of suspicion to properly diagnose young men with hypogonadism and tailor treatments based on both underlying etiology and fertility goals. Let me make it very simple to you guys. Do you understand? Yes, you need constituents like zinc, I'm gonna get into in a second. You need vitamin A, you need certain things to produce it. But to make it simple, you need LH from the brain, you need some cholesterol. Do you understand? Because if you eat cholesterol-based things like an organ meat, like liver, or actually I'll show you in a second, a prostate. Okay, I'm gonna get into that in just a second. Brandon, let's take a little commercial break. Let's go on squirrel mode. I said to Brandon, Brandon, we may not have a long show today. I just realized we're almost at 9 o'clock already. And I don't even have half my slides. We have 30 minutes left on there, so we have to, oh, okay. So I gotta speed through a little bit that way, but yeah, it's been kind of fun, so I'm gonna go through this. But see, like I said, if it wasn't for slides, I could talk for hours. I could Joe Rogan this crap all the time. You know what I'm saying? I could sit there for 3 hours and go through all the things. So that being said, let's go on to here, okay? Let's put up the next slide up here. Here we go. Comparative squamous study of the effects of high intracellular zinc on prostate carcinoma cells. Talk about it. I'm gonna put this up here for you so you guys can see it, but it's really for your things. The normally high concentration of zinc in normal prostate gland is significantly reduced in malignant prostate tissues, but its precise role in prostate tumorigenesis remains unclear. What are they basically saying? They're talking about, once again, when you look at the protection of the prostate, see, it's really sad, and I'm really saddened about this. Men have now been convinced that prostate cancers and these things come from high testosterone. That's not true. Yes, DHEA, dihydrotestosterone, can get elevated, and that's about 10 times stronger than actual testosterone itself. But the majority of prostate problems come because of estrogen levels. Let me say that again. So if you look at this young man at 22 years old, he's going to end up with prostate problems earlier than he'll end up with other problems like dysfunction. Because what happens is there's some hypertrophy, some swelling things that happen. And what I want to show you, and this is a lot of people don't know this, and this is why zinc is so important. Which organ has the highest concentration of zinc? I want you to think about this. What is the number one organ, if you were to take all parts of the body, that actually has the highest amount of zinc? People think it's the immune system. That's not true. It's actually the prostate. The prostate has the highest concentration of zinc in any area of the body. So I got just a little thing. Well, if you have a high level of zinc in that organ, it's probably very important for it if it's deficient. And that's why when you look at the things go on with it, you take a look. Zinc status with benign prostatic hyperplasia and prostate carcinoma. Okay, they've done massive studies on this, and that's one thing I'm telling you. See, this is the most basic things when it talks about adding nutrients. If you know, we went to the AD diet at the beginning of January. I know I'm talking about SARS-CoV-2 a little bit. I know I'm talking about different hormonal issues that way. But really what I'm trying to remind you guys is the fact that let's go back to that carpenter principle. Let's add something into your house that you can build upon. You need certain nutrients. You really do. Because if you're deficient in them, think of it this way, just from the simple aspect of this. The highest gland in a male's body, since we're talking about that 20-year-old, guess what happens? Is in the prostate is the highest concentrated zinc. Zinc is not stored in the body. That means there must be daily consumption for it to have high concentrations. So if you lack zinc, guess what happens? You're going to have more chances of what? Benign prostatic hyperplasia. It's so common today in males, and so is prostate cancer, and they're blaming it on testosterone. That's not really true. There's a major zinc deficiency, and on top of it, you actually have higher estrogen levels. This young man at 22 years old, if not guided properly, is going to end up in that realm. And that's how, once again, when that hypertrophy happens to the prostate, now you start to see urinary changes and start to see some pain and discomfort and start to see some erectile dysfunction. But that may take some time, and eventually, guess what happens? Cannot develop into cancer. Absolutely. Let's look at what it says. In prostate carcinoma, the mean zinc was decreased by 83% compared to normal tissue. Hold the phone. Let's come back here. Think about that. It's quite interesting. It's like, watch this. If a body is low in vitamin D, there's probably a higher concentration of suffer from some condition. We know that. Okay? We can even see that with what happened in the pandemic over the last 2 years. But think about this. In every condition, okay, from BPH, benign prostatic hypertrophy, and prostate carcinoma, they're associated with a reduction of tissue zinc. Now, people say, Doc, can we actually measure zinc levels? Nope, you can't measure intracellular zinc levels. It's kind of like potassium. So it's more about actually making sure that you have it in your diet on a regular basis. And if you don't have it in your diet on a regular basis, then you're left with what? Supplementing. That's where the term supplement came from. Supplement came from the fact that you want to get these things from your diet, and you supplement with them, all right? So if you look at, for example, going back to here on the research conclusion, it is evident that the study that BPH and prostate carcinoma has been associated with a reduction in the levels of tissue zinc, plasma zinc, and increase in urinary zinc creatine concentration. So let me see a question, docs, okay? And I'm talking to the medical field. I know, because every day we get the overpour of you guys not having success with them. I want you to imagine this. If you have been to a doc and you suffer from BPH, or if you suffer from prostate cancer, did they even talk to you about your zinc levels? They even talk to you about its relationship to it. They even talk to you about your estradiol levels, your estrone levels. That can be the major contributor, or even your DHT levels. No, they move right into a form of emergency medicine, of treatment. See, yet these are some of those basic things that we can do. And look, it says in Harvard Health Publishing, the growing problem of an enlarged prostate gland. The most common prostate problem among men over age 50, this condition can cause an embarrassing urination issues. Now, once again, over 50, do you think it's aging, or do you think they've been guided wrong? Because if you look at the amount of zinc that people need, once again, it's not stored in the body. Here, I want you to think about this. If it's not stored in the body, Brandon, come back to me. If it's not stored in the body, guess what happens? It needs to be eaten on a daily basis. That's why they're called essential nutrients. That's why these trace minerals are so important. Now, if we look, once again, anybody want to guess the number one source of actually zinc? There it is, oysters. I was down in Florida. I actually had a wonderful time, and actually had some oysters on Wednesday and had some oysters on, I think, Sunday night. It was fantastic, great things. But here's the other food sources that work really good when it comes to zinc, okay? Oysters, lamb, beef, pumpkin seeds, crab, cheese, almonds, oats, lobster, I don't know what Melissa is, chickpeas, okay? But here's what happens this. These are fantastic things. And it's interesting, with the exception of pumpkin seeds, once again, guess what happens? The majority of them are actually an animal-based food. That's why it's quite difficult for me and my background in nutrition to actually promote being a vegan. I can't. The most nutrient-dense foods on the planet are actually organ meats. Do you understand that if you eat a liver, you get such high dense nutrients, it's close. The next best thing is probably heart. I just ordered a bunch of actually lamb hearts. I just ordered a bunch of chicken hearts. And once again, I will cook them up and we'll eat them because of the high dense nutrients it has. I won't eat them raw because I like to eat them, so I like to enjoy the process, but I will eat them cooked, and it's fantastic. And the one thing about that, yes, you got to get your best sources. You don't want to eat a conventional meat that's fed bad stuff. But that being said, these are significant for them to do it. Now, if you understand, that's why people say, Doc, I don't want to eat this stuff. Well, then guess what? Then you're stuck doing what? Supplementing with it, okay? And I'm going to tell people, I can honestly tell you this. Let me tell you another story. It's story day today, Brandon, okay? It's just you and I. Get this. Does anybody know probably what my favorite product, so I'm not saying herb, I'm not saying supplement, stuff like that. My favorite product by far, it's really close. There's two of them. But I will say this one still comes above the rest. Apple cider vinegar, okay? Apple cider vinegar, to me, probably the greatest elixir on the planet. I can't find anything better. Coconut oil is right there. Do you know what I'm saying? So you got like apple cider vinegar, you got like coconut oil right there. It's probably my two favorite things, bar none. Now, if you Doc, what about astragalus? Yep, favorite herb. Okay, no doubt. Actually, my favorite thing to actually take when it comes to supplementation is actually medicinal mushrooms, not even astragalus. Astragalus has our factors. Go back to the old videos, you can watch that. Okay, maybe we'll do a top 10 favorite Dr. Patrick things. Okay, but the idea is this: is when it comes to taking these things, I would rather see somebody do it via food. But if you look, we actually took a great source, because I'm very big on sourcing. That's why you look at our herbs. They're made the best. They're actually sourced the best. And what happens is this: oyster meat. This dehydrated once again. So our concentration of zinc is very bioavailable. Okay, it's the best source in animal products. Pumpkin seeds, you cannot get enough. Yes, I encourage people to eat pumpkin seeds, absolutely. But you need some form of animal source, so people don't want it. And actually, I have really vegans say, Doc, I don't want to eat that, so I'll actually supplement with it. Yeah, but they still supplement with an organ meat itself. Because once again, zinc has so many factors. And if you look, zinc has a significant amount of factors that affect this. Let's go through them. It's the second most abundant trace mineral in the body after iron. And it presents in every cell and not stored well in the body. Zinc is necessary for the activity of over 300. Now, I've read as high as 1,000, okay? But I just put the minimum out there so it didn't exaggerate it. But I've had papers say, as it does well, over 1,000 that aid in metabolism, digestion, nerve function, and many other processes that way. It's critical for development and function of immune cells. We know that. We've seen that when it came to SARS-CoV-2. It's fundamental for our skin, DNA synthesis, and protein production. What's more, body growth and development relies on zinc because of its role to cell growth. Also, zinc is also needed for taste and smell. So that's why if you ever noticed that when people actually had SARS-CoV-2, the reason why they lost their taste and smell was because as the immune system needed it, guess what it did? Your body will always do everything to survive. A bug came in, that bug can kill you. So therefore, the immune system says, I need all the zinc. And if you didn't have any, guess what happens? It starts stealing from other organs, including the ones that use it for taste and smell. So you think about this. All when you lost your taste and smell, what it taught you was that you're zinc deficient. So that's when people say, well, Doc, I'm suffering from long COVID. You're not suffering from long COVID. You're suffering because you're still sick. You're suffering the fact that you survived the virus, but here's what happens. You're still depleted in so many things that your body can't do its normal function because you haven't given it what it needs to rebuild it and actually work properly. You're not being guided properly. Boy, I said I was going to talk about guide, and we ended up using it all day today, Brandon. Okay. It gets better. If you think about this, here we go. It helps maintain blood sugar. The pancreas is the second highest. So think about this. The prostate has a significant amount of zinc. It's the highest concentration of any organ. Second is the pancreas. It's used for growth and development. It's also used to production of testosterone in all the major production of hormones, okay? It's depleted by high concentrations of phytic acid. Okay, let's come back on this one, Ben, and we'll come back to this slide in a second. I will teach you. I'm actually going to do a training next week for my docs on this alone. Phytic acid is very common in grains. See, that's when people eat a lot of sugars and a lot of grains. Phytic acid is actually known as an anti-nutrient. What it does, it binds to your minerals, including copper, iron, and zinc, and other minerals, other trace minerals. It binds to them and doesn't get them absorbed. So when you're seeing all these athletes eat rice and noodles and all stuff, and they're like going, I'm carb loading. Guys, you are causing mineral deficiencies in your body before a sporting event. And I'm going to show you actually where a high concentration of your zinc is there. I'm going to show you why these pro athletes, I'm going to show you why athletes have such a problem in their muscles because they're zinc deficient. So let's go back to it, Brandon. Here we go. If we look, the third highest concentration is in the muscles, especially the calf muscles. Brandon, come back here. There's a nice little muscle called the soleus muscle that, guess what happens, is extremely high zinc dependent. So you runners, once again, if you don't have significant amount of zinc, you're going to see major not only muscle fatigue, but a lot of people are like, doc, I need protein to build big muscles. That's not true. Protein is there for the amino acid chains. You're going to make more tissue that way. But if you don't have zinc, guess what happens? It's a bad day. That's why these runners cramp up a lot and they think it's magnesium or potassium deficiency. Yes, they can have those too. But you're going to notice that these runners, what they do is they actually carb load like crazy and throw all this phytic acid and create the anti-nutrients. They deplete the amount of zinc that they even needed circulating through your system because it's bound to by the phytic acid. And now they go run and now their calves are massively deficient. And they wonder why they're cramping up and everything. Research this quite well. Zinc is needed for massive amount of physical activity when it comes to just your calves alone. It's actually very big for the Achilles. So therefore, you know, this is just my brain. When I sit there and go, somebody just all of a sudden tears their Achilles, I'm like going, probably a chronic zinc deficiency over time. Yes, you beat it up physically. Yes, yes, yes. There's no doubt. Okay? And there's a physical trauma that happens that way. But you don't have the proper material to rebuild it. Guess what? You're going to end up with a problem where you're going to all of a sudden go deplete, weak tissue, and then it snaps. Okay? So it's very important to go back. So let's go back next. 4 times more zinc in red meat than in white meat. I know a lot of people are big into chicken. Guess what happens? Get back to your red meat that way. The thymus gland is dependent on zinc. And if you don't have it, it leads to atrophy. That's why zinc is so important to your immune system and its development. A deficiency can lead to acne. I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt, especially you young women that need high levels of zinc and also high levels of copper, which is correlated with both of them. Zinc and copper have a relationship to each other, is one, again, your skin. So I see a girl that has a lot of skin issues that way. Zinc always pops into my mind. First sign of deficiency is shortness of breath. It's one of the first signs of deficiency. And it's not hard time breathing. It's like, oh, just shortness of breath. You go up, and it's very common for people as they age, and they go up the stairs, and they go upstairs, they go, oh, I have a hard time. I'm like, zinc deficiencies. And see, that's the thing. See, these trace minerals are so important for these deficiencies not to be there. Now, once again, where do I like getting zinc from? Multiple factors. I love the fact that, look at, in there, a testicle, high zinc, prostate, heart, liver. See, that's why, once again, people say, doc, do you take a male glandular every day? Yep, every day, every day, every day. Because you know why? Physically active like crazy. Heck, I'm going to play a ton of golf today. It's going to be great. Going to hit the simulator, play with my girls. It'll be awesome. And guess what happens? High physical activity. But the prostate alone has a significant amount of bioavailable zinc in there. It's really important to have the proper bioavailable zinc. Now, that being said, there are other forms of zinc. I like them from organs. I do. I'm going to do a whole show here probably in the next month just on organ meats alone. I really am. And once again, I order out my organ meats. I actually honestly tell you, I order them out. I don't make them myself and stuff like that. And so I love liverwurst because then I got heart and kidney and stuff in there. And oh my goodness, the amount of nutrients in there is significant. It really is. And you're going to find out you don't need to eat as much. So ladies, you're going to find this out. I know a lot of people say calories, calories, calories. Yeah, calories have a little effect on stuff. But when you have high dense nutrients, your calorie intake goes down by nature. That's why people start eating organ meats. They say, doc, I'm losing weight. Yeah, because you're getting all your nutrients you need. They're highly dense. But on top of it, your calorie intake dropped a little bit that way. So therefore, guess what happens? The amount of metabolic processes you need are less. And so you have less energy expenditure on breaking down food. So you have more energy. But on top of it, actually, you don't need as much. So therefore, guess what happens? You have less chance of storing things. So it's been kind of great seeing that. Now, Brandon, what time we have? 9:13. So what we're going to do, I still have about 15 more slides, but just like the other day, we're cutting it off because next week, what we're going to do is this. And I'm just going to give you a little prelude, and I'll talk about this in the beginning of the next show. I want to show you this right here. Not a joke. Retinal hemorrhage after SARS-CoV-2 vaccination. Brandon, come back to me on this one. When we have Dr. Meehan on, once again, and go to meehanmd.com and go to his website to get a prelude next show, because I will tell you right now, one of my favorite interviews I did, one of the most bold, incredible doctors I ever met, top surgeon, ophthalmologist, but actually became very big into health based on, because he was a very good investigative editor for journals, and he had to prove a bunch of them, and they found out that shaken baby syndrome, they actually had research showing that shaken baby syndrome was happening massively post-vaccine because there wasn't, the parents were not abusing them, because what they found out, it's very common in shaken baby syndrome that there's retinal hemorrhage. Well, what happened was this. Post-vaccination, there is massive amount of retinal damage that happens. And guess what? And if you look at, I'm going to save this for next week, but even in the research, even today on SARS-CoV-2, they're seeing retinal hemorrhage post that vaccine. And once again, and I know this might get me banned from what we're doing that way, but I'm giving you the research. I'm pulling it up on PubMed. I'm pulling documented stuff. That's why it's kind of funny when I tell you if I give you an opinion, I say it's my opinion. I'm allowed to have an opinion. Well, maybe not by Facebook or YouTube or stuff like that, but I'm telling you right now, I can give you an opinion based on stuff, but when I'm actually giving you great data, so you look at retinal hemorrhage after SARS-CoV-2 vaccination. Now, Brandon, don't show the next slide, but I'm talking about this because I'm going to call it next week. Based on the data, there seems to be a temporal link between SARS-CoV-2 vaccination and guess what? Retinal hemorrhage and other submacular damage. Okay, meaning the fact that you're going to see vision changes coming like crazy post-SARS-CoV-2 vaccine. Who said so? All the research did. But the great thing was, Dr. Meehan saw this a long time ago when he was a resident, when he was actually investigating journals and he was approving things that could be published. His interview was bold, it's great, it's fantastic, and we're gonna go through this. And then what he did, because of his own experience, he found actually about hormones. And of course, then he read my book and started seeing our stuff, and it blew his mind away because of what we are doing out there. So it's great to correlate with a wonderful doctor like that and actually not only have him on a show, but give you an amazing view of what even some of the top surgeons in the world are talking about that way, and I will have him on next week. That being said, what a great show today. I said to Brandon, I said, I don't even know if we have enough material to cover this stuff, but it looks like we did, and stuff and everything that way. So guys, once again, I hope you guys have a beautiful day today. I hope that you guys enjoy the Easter weekend. For you guys that are going to church or not going to church, I celebrate the fact that there's just a wonderful thing out there that we can have great days and enjoy the day. And guess what happens? I want you guys to have not a good day, but I want you guys to have a great day and actually enjoy. We will see you guys next week and watch for the things that we post out there. Also, I was reminded, please do me a favor, sign up for our newsletter. We have 3 amazing investigative journalists that are writing the stuff that I put out there and things like that, going for great topics. As we are censored more and more and more, you can always get everything on our website. But then what happens is this, you'll be able to sign up for a text feature too, that when this show goes live, that you will be notified, because we can't do certain things because of social medias. But once again, just remind you, don't have a good day, have a great day. Thank you for watching today. Hey, thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a single video or live